Why is the Mona Lisa the most famous painting in the world? Her enigmatic smile, the mystery surrounding her identity, the fact she was painted by Renaissance pin-up boy Leonardo da Vinci. Sure, all of these things helped boost the popularity of the 16th century masterpiece. But what really catapulted the small, unassuming portrait to international stardom was a daring burglary over 100 years ago. So how did Perugia pull off one of the greatest art heists of all time? With mind-boggling ease, it seems. Vincenzo Perugia, the man who stole the Mona Lisa from France and returned it to Italy, was born on October 8, 1881 and died on October 8, 1925. With the help of a passing plumber, he managed to unlock an exit door, took the painting under the arm of his white worker's smock, and took it home to his one-room hotel apartment. When Italian handyman Vincenzo Perugia stole the Mona Lisa from the Louvre in 1911, he never could have guessed her absence would be the very thing that made her the most recognizable painting on the planet. Suddenly, images of the artwork were splashed across international newspapers as the two-year police hunt hit dead end after dead end. Though he was misguided as a historian and an umpire of provenance, the painting had been clearly and cleanly purchased by the King of France, the country to which it was ultimately returned. Perugia's camper is worth recalling at a time when repatriation remains a murky battleground. The Mona Lisa, also known as La Gioconda in Italian, is instantly recognized by her little smile and Italian Renaissance design. Millions of tourists from over the world come to Paris each year to see her prominently displayed at the Louvre Museum. Although many critics say that the Mona Lisa isn't Leonardo's finest piece, her rich history and the questions she raises have ensured that she has become one of the most, if not the most famous paintings in the world. The Mona Lisa was painted by Da Vinci at some point in the early 1500s. On the 21st of August 1911, a man named Vincenzo Perugia committed an infamous art crime that made history. He stole what is now the most famous painting in the world, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, 1503, from the Louvre in Paris. The art theft caused a media sensation, and it took police a full 2 years before they caught up with the real culprit. At one point, they even arrested the writer Guillaume Apollinaire and his friend Pablo Picasso, believing they had masterminded the art heist. But who was Vincenzo Perugia? How did he steal this famous masterpiece? And did he get away with it? Vincenzo Perugia worked at the Louvre. Vincenzo Perugia was an Italian petty criminal who had moved to Paris in 1908. From there, he took on a job as a handyman at the Louvre, installing protective glass cases onto paintings. This job gave him first-hand access to the world-famous paintings that hung on the gallery walls, and an understanding of how artworks were kept safe from criminals like himself. In his Louvre uniform, a white smock, Vincenzo Perugia could walk freely throughout the gallery after opening hours, and it was this unfiltered access to the gallery that allowed him to steal the painting. Security at the Louvre was low. In contrast with today's high-tech security systems and CCTV, there was little in place during the early 20th century to stop criminals from taking priceless works of art off the walls or even out of glass cabinets. Another man named Joseph Jerry Pirret had already proved this by pocketing small, ancient artifacts unseen from the museum's displays and selling them to his friends, a blatant act of theft that would be virtually impossible today. Vincenzo Perugia had two henchmen. Perugia masterminded the art heist, but he had help. Two brothers, named Vincenzo and Michel Lancelotti, aided Vincenzo with the theft. Together they hid in a security closet, waiting for the gallery to close. After dark, they quickly set to work, lifting the artwork off the wall, removing its glass case and frame, and wrapping it up in a blanket. When the gallery opened, they smuggled it out of the building unseen. Amazingly, no one even noticed the Mona Lisa was missing, until a gallery visitor who had come to see it was faced with an empty wall and ran off to tell security. He hid the painting in a false bottom trunk. Perugia and his henchmen shamelessly carried the painting out of the Louvre and back to his Parisian apartment. Initially, he had hoped he could sell the artwork to a wealthy collector, but when news of the painting's theft hit the worldwide media and police began offering a large reward for its return, He realized this might prove more difficult than expected, so he kept the painting stored in a false bottom trunk while he worked out what to do next. Vincenzo Peruggia tried to sell the Mona Lisa to a dealer in Florence. 2 years later, Peruggia decided to have a go at selling the painting to an art dealer in Florence called Alfred Geri, under the false name of Leonardo Vincenzo. Understandably, Geri was immediately suspicious, so he asked the head of an Italian art gallery to join him in the meeting with Peruggia. After confirming the painting's authenticity, the two Italian art experts pretended to go along with Peruggia's sale, while secretly calling the police. From there, the painting made its way back to the Louvre, where it still hangs today. Meanwhile, the police caught up with Peruggia, who claimed he only stole the painting so he could return it to its birthplace in Italy. Amazingly, Peruggia's shady criminal activities helped make the Mona Lisa famous around the world. Though he was misguided as a historian and an umpire of provenance, the painting had been clearly and cleanly purchased by the King of France, the country to which it was ultimately returned. Peruggia's caper is worth recalling at a time when repatriation remains a murky battleground. Each week, it seems, investigators announce new seizures of looted antiquities from museums and private collections. Countries of origin rejoice as artifacts are returned. Collectors and museums complain that the concept of what is stolen art is being constantly redefined, at their expense and, perhaps, the public's too. Do the Elgin marbles belong back in Greece, or should they remain in London? Should the lions of San Marco in Venice be returned to Turkey? For his part, Peruggia would become a national hero in Italy when Da Vinci's missing masterpiece was finally found there. Regardless of what his family was expecting, some windfall, perhaps a reward, a lucky wager, a ransom, Peruggia himself grew impatient. He returned to Italy with the painting, secreting it in his apartment in Florence, where on November 29, 1913, Alfredo Geri, an antiques dealer, received a letter postmarked from Paris. It said, "The stolen work of Leonardo da Vinci is in my possession. It seems to belong to Italy since its painter was an Italian." The letter was signed Leonardo. After contacting Giovanni Paggi, director of Florence's Uffizi Gallery, Geri replied to the letter, and on December 10th, a 5'3", mustachioed man who identified himself as Leonardo walked into Geri's shop. He demanded $100,000 in expenses and offered to show Geri and Paggi the painting in his room at the Tripoli Italia Hotel. Peruggia was later arrested at the hotel, but would become a hometown hero, suffering from lead poisoning, probably as a result of his work as a painter. He served 7 months in prison before he was released and returned to his hotel, which had been renamed La Gioconda, in deference to the fact that the painting had been found there. He later relocated to Paris, where he died on his 44th birthday in 1925. But for months after its recovery, the Mona Lisa triumphantly toured Italy to joyful crowds. Members of the Italian parliament preferred to retain it, but the nation's educated minister graciously agreed to restore it to the Louvre. On January 4, 1914, the painting was restored to the Louvre. It now hangs in the museum's largest room, the Salle des Etats, opposite Veronese's The Wedding Feast at Cana, the museum's largest painting, which, in fact, had been plundered by Napoleon in 1797 from the refectory of the San Giorgio Maggiore Monastery in Venice. But had Peruggia instead slipped another artwork under his cloak that fateful day, it could have been a very different story. If a different one of Leonardo's works had been stolen, then that would have been the most famous work in the world, not the Mona Lisa. Thanks for watching. Do comment your thoughts on the tallest buildings in Dubai. Sound off in the comments section below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so we can keep you up to date with the latest in crimes of the century.